Hello and welcome. This is the April meta tier list, and we're gonna do it the same way we did it last time. We're gonna go over Mists and Corrupteds, then cover Hellgates, do the top 10 weapons tier list based on viability and flexibility, but I also added a thingy that shows the total score of the tree line, so you can see also the overall score of each tree line of every weapon added in that tree line. So not just individual weapons. So for example, the total score of all the swords is 336, but the total score of all the axes is 408. So in general, you could say axes are more viable than swords for the content given here, at least on this list. Link to the tier list is in the description below as always. The results in the video are preliminary and I will update the list in a few days given more feedback and given that the meta will settle more. Alright, so let's just jump right into it. We have the Mists and Corrupteds tier list. I think we all saw how Carving has taken over the Mist, especially since the nerf to dual swords and the Shadow Edge nerf kicked in. Carving was always underrated, and now the other alternatives that threaten it are worse. It makes sense. Another addition to the Mists is now double-bladed. Since the quarterstaff rework on the Qs and Ws, all quarterstaffs in general are better now. I'm not sure if Quarterstaff itself is good enough to make it into the C tier, but yeah. As of the time of this video, by the way, Daybreaker got buffed to supposedly purge before dealing damage, but that does not seem to be the case. There is a bug. So yeah, these ratings are assuming this bug gets fixed soon. For Corrupteds, the meta is similar but has more room for 1v1 brawling weapons such as Trinity Spear. Also, stuff that can take advantage of the narrow rooms and traps get a slight bonus, so for example Wildfire and Cursed Skull are slightly better in Corrupteds than in Mists. One-handed Curse in general takes a massive drop as people just run way more iframes and have learned how to counter it. Mistwalker Jacket being a common item, so it's hard to make work unfortunately. Also, the demonic nerf makes it weaker, but still playable. So before we talk about 2v2s, it's important to notice the nerf to healing that came this patch. Went from 20% healing debuff to 30% healing debuff, and a lot of people are left wondering, does this mean that we can now play double DPS or one-shot comps? And the truth is, they are better, the double DPS comps at least, but not really. Good players will cycle their defensives, use Respot, Mage Robe, Rover Fury, whatever it is, and their 1 DPS will still kill you just as fast as before. I think this only really affects healer DPS mirror matchups. The fights are way less likely to last until lava, since there is less healing output, which is noticeable because these fights do tend to drag out. One-shot comps will still work the same. Either they bait a clerical or cleanse or whatever and you die, or they don't. Double DPS comps though, they are slightly better now. There are a lot of things you can run that's off meta, but again, the enemy pops a rest spot, bops you away, purges you, whatever, then the DPS kills you or kills one of you, and then they stabilize and it's GG pretty much. In terms of the meta, Great Fire is currently number 1, but Infernal Staff will probably replace it if the NDA rework goes through. Link to that in the description below, by the way, if you want to check out the NDA. It seems pretty strong, not gonna lie, but keep in mind, in order to play Fire, you need to have low ping. Otherwise, you will lose out on a significant portion of your DPS output, and that will mean you're better off playing other weapons which don't rely on ping, for example Dagger Power, Death Givers. The question often comes up, what is adequate ping to play Great Fire? And my response is, if you're above 100, play something else, but ideally 60 or lower. I think that would be a decent amount. In the B tier, as you can see, it's just a mess. There's so many inferior healer DPS comps you can run, or double DPS comps. There's so many combinations, it's hard to put all of them. But yeah, I tried to include the most decent ones here. So for 5v5 Hellgates, I think it's honestly pretty close. It's a really close call between these 3 comps that we have at the moment. You have the front to back comp, you have a Forge Hammer Dive with a dagger per DPS, and you have the Carving THC Dive / Clap comp. And I think it's really close between these 3. I think in theory, if played optimally, the front to back comp should be able to always come out on top, but it's hard to tell. Either way, the top 3 comps here are pretty close. The Grail Dagger one-shot has fallen out of the meta completely, and so has the Oathkeeper dive. But with another nerf to 4Gs on the NDA, the front-to-back comp might go back to playing Carrion Color again instead, but time will tell. With regards to the THC dive, it turned into either Clarent or Quarterstaff, and those seem to be the DPS of choice. There's also one-shots and dot comps, but I think they just don't quite make the cut. One-shots can't compete with the knock-up diminishing returns changes, and there's also the Merc shoes rework, so yeah. For 10v10 Hellgates, it is pretty interesting. I think there's 2 top comps at the moment, and it's either our current iteration of a one-shot comp or the RBL clap. There's a ton of other one-shot variants that are interesting. One of them runs Carving instead of Spirit. I think that one is also interesting, but just strictly worse in general. Then you have the double Clarent, you have the double Realmbreaker one-shots, so those still exist and are viable. RBL comp sacrifices 1 tank and instead runs an extra DPS, and the pressure it applies, if played correctly, is just too much in the current meta basically. There's also melee dive, which people figured out how to play against, and it kind of fell off. But also we have the other one-shot variants, some of the worse ones. There's the double Demon Fangs, trying the old comp that we used many months ago, but with the nerfs, it's just not quite there. Obviously, the damage is still good, but against other one-shots, you lose out in terms of mobility pre-brawl, and that just makes it hard to play. You get stickied, bopped, dusk armored on the choke, and yeah, good luck chasing. That doesn't even factor in that Great Arcane is a thing, so yeah. And for the top 10 list of April, it looks pretty similar to what it usually looks like. Hallowfall remains at number 1 and Bloodletter at number 2 as being the most flexible weapons for most content. Hallowfall obviously being the best holy staff for group PvP activities. Hallowfall only really being worse in 2v2 Hellgates where Great Holy is better. But yeah, mostly the same weapons, light crossbow, mace, arcane staff. But we see Bear Paws made it into the top 10 as well. Carving, just barely at number 11, didn't make it by 1 point, but it is really versatile and deserves an honorable mention. Also, we have Clarent Blade and Realmbreaker, another 2 honorable mentions that didn't quite make it into the top 10. But yeah, that's pretty much it, I would say, for the meta tier list of April. Again, these take a long time to update and edit and upload, so if you do enjoy these, please leave a like and subscribe for more content. Links to the images and to the tier list, of course, is in the description below. Also, if you want to join our Discord, there is a link there as well. I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good one.